Our story is a relentless pursuit of our ideal dream lifestyle. And our journey has been something that's spanned over 20 years now at this point. And, we've got 20 minutes to talk. And so 20 minutes, 20 years, we're obviously going to have to cut some things out. So we're not going to be able to share with you the details about how one time we wire transferred $140,000 to Latvia for an investment and never saw it again. We're also going to have to leave out the part where we lost about $25,000 in 15 minutes shorting Dow futures. That was fun. So obviously, we don't really have an issue with risk, right?
So John and I met in 1995, and we met in college, actually in Spanish class. And as time went along, we became very frustrated with being broke college students. And John was studying computer science at the time. And
well, the problem with computer science in 1995 was that the curriculum in college and universities was about 2 years behind what was actually taking place in the marketplace. So I got really frustrated with that, and I said, that's enough of that. So I went to a technical bookstore and bought an entire stack of, programming manuals and books, and I self-learned in the course of, 5 or 6 months, multiple programming languages.
Well, we had a friend that introduced John to an opportunity with a company, and he got a job there as a programmer. And so in a short period of time, he dropped out of school, we bought a house, and got a dog. And then actually, within that next year, we went from making $40K a year to $80,000 a month.
And life was good.
Life was good. Now, I was 23 at the time. John's 6 years older than me. And so what do you do when you have all this money, right? You build a big house.
Spend it as fast as you can, right? That's what happens when you're really young and you don't really have a financial education.
So that year we built a house and we got married. And when we moved into the house, I was 24 at the time. I kept thinking that neighbors were going to show up and knock on the door and ask for my parents.
So from that point, right around that time frame, the software industry started changing. And what was happening was the companies like the ones that I was contract working for were no longer bringing in high-paid contractors. They were making a shift to an employee model, and they were reducing the amount they were willing to pay people. And so for me, I was thinking, I don't want to get paid less. And I don't want to be an employee of some company. Once you're an entrepreneur, it's really hard to go back to an employment situation.
And then somewhere in that mix, we'd been sold the dream of network marketing, and we left software and went network marketing. And we were convinced that we could make an amazing income and also have that time freedom and leverage and then that.
Well, we worked really, really hard with that company for 3 years, and we were recognized leaders in that company. Everybody looked at us and said, "Wow, we want to be where you're at in that company." But what they didn't know was what was happening behind the scenes, and that was complete misery. The things that we were doing to make even $5,000 a month with that company was sitting on the phone, calling lead lists, prospecting people, spending hours and hours trying to get through to people on the phone to try and bring in a couple new people each month to have them quit the next week. That same grind, and it was awful. In fact, we were spending about $3,000 to make $5,000.
Well, and remember that big house, right? That had a $5,000 a month mortgage payment. So there was not enough money. We were, siphoning money from our, stock investments and, using tax return money. And, it was starting to get really bad.
Your business model is having a tough time when the only time you catch up during the year is when you get your tax refund.
Oh. So then an opportunity came along in 2003, and we moved back into traditional business with a financial services company. And in a short period of time, with 6 months, less than that maybe, we were back making six figures, $10,000 a month, and trying to, get out of the debt that we had been in. And so here goes this roller coaster again, right?
Yeah, catching up pretty quick and starting to ramp that up. We were actually running it out of our home. That big house that we had built had a large office, and so we had started staffing it up. And at one point, we had 5 full-time employees in our home office, and we had cubicles and multiple phone lines, the whole thing set up. So it was running really well, making a good income. But come 2006, we had our son. Connor was born,
Yes.
and everything changed, right? Those of you that have gone from not having kids to having children, you know what I mean when I say that everything changes, right? Your priorities shift, and you start making completely different decisions. And so for us, we were really, really driven at that point to really creating a freedom-based model so that we could spend that kind of time that we wanted with our son. And that was our number one priority, was being able to be with him, not just when he's an infant, but carry that through as he grows up, be able to do things that we see other parents not being able to do.
So you fast forward 2 years, a toddler in that environment didn't work so well. He was in the office, he was, into everything, and people were trying to make phone calls, and any person in their right mind might have just rented an office space, but we were investors, so we ended up buying a $500,000 office space for this. And about 3 months after we moved into the office, we got a notice that said the laws around our industry were changing, and we knew we saw the writing on the wall, and we knew that we were going to have to reinvent ourselves because what we were doing was going to be gone.
Crash and burn. It was a really tough period to try and swallow the regulation changes that literally put us out of business overnight. But about 6 months, we let all our employees go.
Yep.
And there I was sitting in a completely empty office by myself with my computer, sitting there going, what the hell am I going to do?
But as we were struggling to find our place and figure out what to do, September 2011 came around, and that was the tipping point of our financial pinch that we were in. And at that month was the month that we had to stop making our mortgage payment. And we had never been in that position before, ever, on any account. In fact, both the office and the house. The next 9 months would be so difficult and so trying for us, just so lost, trying to figure out what to do and what could we do that had all the right things that would make a fabulous business for us.
And then in January of that same year, our dog of 14 died.
And he might as well have been our first child. I'm not kidding you. We're still not over it. We miss him so much. And the water line broke at the house.
Yeah, you know how it happens when you get in that slump and you start to let all that negativity start to build up, and it brings on more of it. So it just starts to pile on. And we just felt like we were at rock bottom at that point, and we had kind of lost ourselves. We lost our confidence. Everything.
Thinking that maybe all that money we'd made in the past was a fluke, right? That, maybe our dreams were too big and, we just need to, take those down a notch.
Some of you guys know what we're talking about, where you get to that point where you just start beating yourself up, and we had to pull out of it. So about that same time, Natasha had been working with the real estate agent that was listing our house for short sale because we were losing that, but we wanted to avoid foreclosure. And she had an opportunity to go and work with this other agent as an agent in that office.
Well, she was at our house listing it for short sale, and she said, have you ever considered doing real estate? And my answer was, quote, I haven't because I knew it would suck my life away. And there was an opportunity, and I think the next day I even decided. I bought the licensing course online. In 2 months I had my license. In another 2.5 months I had my first deal closing, and actually had like 4 or 5 other deals closing the next month after that. Yeah. So I created an income for ourselves that would allow John to do network marketing full-time and take the heat off of him.
She essentially took one for the team.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
As we call it.
It's the first time in our lives that we were going opposite directions, and it felt terrible.
It was very uncomfortable, but I was not going to allow that to fail. I saw how hard she was working. She was literally putting in 10, 12-hour days, gone all the time, on the phone when she was at home. So even when she was here, she was not really here, and that's just not a life. So I was working like a dog to make sure that I was going to succeed with the internet marketing. And at the time, I was doing affiliate marketing, and I'm running massive amounts of traffic to affiliate offers to make very, very tiny, tiny margins of profit. And it's very, very tough business. It's really kind of just like one notch maybe above gambling. And there's a lot of risk involved, right? So I'd build up big commissions with these affiliate networks, and then they started crumbling. We had 2 different companies owing us thousands of dollars go under and file bankruptcy before they paid us. And so right at that point where I was about ready to throw in the towel and say internet marketing doesn't work, I was reintroduced to Empower Network. And so, I was familiar with it from when it first launched. I knew David Wood from prior network marketing stuff, and I trusted him. And I took a look at this thing and dug into it for the first time, just really got the blog system, got the inner circle. And once I understood what it was and got my head around it, I immediately recognized that this was the solution to all the problems and the challenges that I've been having with traditional affiliate marketing, as well as all the stuff that we dealt with network marketing and all the frustration we had with that. This wrapped it up nicely in a little bow, right? So I go back to Natasha and say, look, I signed up for this thing with David Wood, and I know we said we were never going to do network marketing again. But this is different.
Oh, sure it is. Sure. And so I listened, but ultimately I said, no paid traffic.
Right.
Because I wasn't going to work my tail off only to have you spend all of it on traffic.
Yep. And I totally agreed to that because, again, the model that I was looking at with Empower Network was blogging, creating videos, syndication, social media, getting it out there, creating influence and authority. And I could do that without paid traffic. So off I went. And in fact, it was about a month later we got all in. We didn't have the money, but we figured it out, right? Because once you make a decision that you're going to do something, the rest of it's just a formality. So 2 months into it, this event is coming up, the Austin event in January 2013. And I go back to Natasha and I said, look, there's this event coming up with Empower Network, and not only do I need to be there, but you need to be there with me.
So, and we just fell in love with what David Wood had to say. And I felt like, how could I go wrong with a company like this that has a heart like that?
Yeah. Here's what happened after the event, right? I really, the only way I can really describe it is that I went from being in a business to being a business. So what I want to do real quick, I want to just go through, because I get a lot of questions on Facebook and from other Empower members, what is it that I'm doing to get the results I'm getting without really using a lot of paid traffic? So to answer that question, it's really simple. I keep it simple. That's what I do. I keep it simple. And I've actually been doing the same thing from the beginning that I do now. The only thing is I've gotten better at it. And I've created more influence and authority because I have now so much content out there.
Value.
Value.
Don't forget
exactly.
the value part.
So what I do is every week I create a blog post or video content or both. I don't blog every day, so I don't put a new blog post out every single day because for my lifestyle, that would be too much effort to try and do that when I spend a lot of time on each blog post to make sure that it's the right kind of content, that it delivers the value that I know my marketplace is looking for. So I get that content out there and then I syndicate it, but I syndicate it all the time. So it's a continuous process of syndication. I know a lot of people, they think, well, syndication, you just share your blog post link or your video link with your social networks and then you move on and you do it again with another piece of content. I continually syndicate my content all the time. So I might go back today and syndicate a piece of content that I did 2 years ago. You can do that, right? Because only a fraction of people on social media are going to see your content each time you put it out there, and you can mix it up using different images or coming at it with a different bit, little bit of different angle when you re-syndicate that content. So it works really, really well to do that. Aside from that, I'm very active on Facebook. I post 1 to 4 times a day on Facebook. Again, it's value, sharing lifestyle. You guys that see me on Facebook, you see the kind of stuff we post. We post about our vacations, right? Because that's what we're doing all the time now. Vacations, playing with my kid at the park in the middle of the afternoon, going mountain biking, that kind of stuff, because it's the lifestyle that attracts people to this industry, right? They want to know what the money can do for them, not necessarily the money, but I also occasionally put the money shots up there as well.
Don't forget you're emailing your list.
And emailing the list. 4 to 8 times a week, I email my list. Again, it's sending them blog content, sending them to videos. Sometimes I'll do videos just for my list. And really, it's a matter of tapping into what your marketplace is struggling with and then helping them to get past that. And I've got a lot of people on my list that are in other network marketing companies doing other deals at different levels of struggling or success. And I don't really care. I'm always putting stuff out there that I know is going to help them no matter what they're doing. And then it attracts people that are kind of seeking something different, or at some point along the way after they've been watching what I'm doing, they decide, hey, I'm looking to make a shift. Who am I going to go with? I'm going to go with this guy that keeps sending me all this great content. So it takes a while for people to watch you before they really have that belief and trust in what you're doing.
So then the next thing is you do Hangouts.
2 hangouts a week with my team, and then we attend all the Empower Network events, online as well as all the offline events. We are now at our 10th event.
Yep.
29 months that we've been with Empower. We've gone over $200,000 in commissions. Again, income disclaimer, results not typical.
And you do use a little bit of paid traffic now.
I do now work in some paid traffic. So currently I'm spending about $1,000 to $1,500 in paid traffic, but we're now almost regularly hitting 18 to even over 20,000 per month in commissions. So
yeah.
Thanks, guys. So thank you so much for hearing our story. Appreciate it.
Thank you.